The last two pages of Storm of Passion by Jenny Cartwright.
But Gil and Eleanor did not hear them. Their world had shrunk to the size of each other's eyes. "Tell me about yourself, Gil," murmured Eleanor at last. "What do you want to know?" She shrugged. "Everything, I suppose. What sort of porridge your mother makes. You know, important stuff like that." He let out a soft laugh, but he didn't say anything. She pressed her cheek against his chest. "Did you really mean it, Gil, when you sort of said you loved me? Or was it, were you teasing?" "I was never more serious in my life," he said, gravely. Then he propped himself up on one elbow and looked down on her. "Why do you need to ask me that?" she sighed. "Oh, because, well, back in the summer you seemed to despise me so much at the time." He was silent for a while, a very long while. He looked at her all the time, though his eyes a muted hazel. Then he said, "There were 4 chicks in my nest, all jostling for porridge. Eleanor, I was the eldest. Then came Hillary. She's a bit of a pain. She was born to shop. And Allison, who was, I'm sorry to say, born to nag, but very kind with it. And then Susan. She was the youngest. She was very sweet. That pink room where you slept, she chose the decorations for that. It's like her, the room. Pretty, sweet, summery. Everyone loved Susan." He swallowed hard. "She sadly was born to die. She had leukemia." He paused again, and when he spoke next his voice was thick with emotion. "She was very brave and always very happy. She loved life, but she died when she was only 15. I watched her fade, and I was powerless to stop it." Eleanor put her hand in her mouth. Eleanor put her hand to her mouth. She could feel the pain bleeding from his words. "I'm sorry," she whispered, aching for him deep within her heart. "I love Susan. I've had plenty of women friends, Eleanor. Plenty. But I'd never been in love with any of them. And then one day someone young and lovely and full of life walked into the village, and my heart turned over. I fell in love with her image, and I had great hopes of falling in love with the reality too. I piled Gwen Jenkins with questions and booked a table for dinner, and then I came down on the beach to ask you to come out with me, despite that awful ring you wore. I looked for you on the sand, but you weren't there, and then I saw you in the sea, and you were drowning. You were dying in front of my eyes, and I thank God that this time I had the power to intervene." He stopped. "Don't say any more," murmured Eleanor huskily. "I understand." "Do you?" he said, his head on her breast. "I hope so. I half loved you, half hated you. You seem so careless of your life. Oh, not just because you won't accept how close you come to losing it, but because you seem to be squandering its joys. Every time you did something life-affirming, like letting Porky trot off, my heart would leap with hope, and then you'd do something crazy to spoil it. Or at least that was how it seemed," he sighed. "And then you saved Jip's life, and I knew I've got to you badly wrong. Deep down you loved life, Eleanor, and I knew I loved you too. Oh." She bit her lip, remembering lying with him on the wet grass, trembling in his arms. She recalled the smell of his shirt, soft against her cheek. I thought, well, I knew you must have come to trust me to have gone over the edge yourself. But I still thought you despised me. I hated myself for loving you, because it made a fool of me. She ran her tongue across her lips. But I can't stop loving you. So I had to face up to the fact that I really had been a fool. For years and years, if I loved you, which I did, then I had to accept that I had been wrong. It took me a long time to work it out. It was like fitting a jigsaw together, very slowly and very painfully. When I was down on that ledge with Jip, I was worried that anything I might do to entice him into the bag might make him behave unpredictably and dangerously. Because I didn't understand dogs, and so I could seem to trust my instincts with him. That was how it was between my parents and me. We could never understand each other properly. They were frightened for me because they couldn't comprehend me. I was always unpredictable to them, and try as I might, I could never be like them. She drifted for a while on the silence between them. Then she said, "You set me free, Gil. I've spread my wings now. I've flown. And right now I feel like as if I've touched the sky. Do you really love me?" She couldn't answer that. There was no word bigger than yes, and it was too small a word to tell what she felt in her heart. Instead, she closed her eyes and let her mouth drift instinctively into a smile, which he covered gently, gratefully, with a kiss.
Noyjeetut hastily threw the book into the fire. Missed its mark. Burn, you fat piece of shit.